Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another Cosmonarchy Brood War castover. I know you thought that the streak of daily uploads had ended. Joke's on you, I just put this up at 9 p.m. instead of 9 a.m., you know what I'm saying? So here we have a 2v2 for you. It's TheShambler and Benno as Zerg and Terran against 3Crow and IskatuMesk, who are Zerg and Protoss. This is a map called Bloodstone Battleground, I believe, and it is the latest in the entry of absolutely psychotic Shambler maps, or just psychotic maps in general, that are very eccentrically non-standard to a very strange degree, and on top of it all, have niduses all over the place. So I'm sure that won't be very confusing. If you can't already tell, I have no idea what to expect from a map like this, nor do I have any understanding why. Everything has to be so incredibly experimental. But, that being said, we do have his Orcas first. And that larva just walked all the way around it. Holy shit, I've never seen that before. There's a neutral anchor at the ramp here, which seems to be the way to jump into the same platform as everybody else. And then we do have a third height level. So I guess that's actually kind of neat about this map, is we have the players start at the third height level, and then they can work their way down to the lower one, the lowest one down over here. As you can see, there's some silliness with the ramp tiling. I'm not sure how much of that is fixable without doing more tiles, and how much of it is just not knowing that certain tiles exist in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it came to light that, like, all of this, for example, I know this isn't tileable, because I had only made it for the default blend, which is obviously an oversight. This one, on the other hand, is tileable because I didn't actually add the snow. So at some point, I'll just end up removing the snow because it doesn't work very well. Anyway, we do have Zorki's Shroud here for 3Crow, and he has an Ovoleth, and he will type yes because of that. And helpfully, Benno says there's a cannon rush here, and he pulls every single worker that he's got, but doesn't attack the scribe. So he will lose a Mason for it if, yeah, there it is. But, however, because Mesk did not use the worker trick afterwards, he ends up getting owned by that. And so he will not be able to add additional wardens, which is pretty funny. Yes, Shambler is correct, though. Since you win those fights with Masons versus Scribes, you just tickle them to death that way. Now, I'm not sure if Shambler has first-hand experience of that in CMBW, because obviously worker attack rates are slower than they used to be, but Masons do attack faster than the other workers, so it could be that you only need the 2 workers per warden or whatever, and the warp rate is also very low, so you have a little bit more time than you might think otherwise. That being said, there's going to be a Panoptus follow-up, so Mesk playing his typical self, being very silly. Now, the Lekizalisk drop was spotted here by the Skithercore, and the Ovoleth will... I'm not sure it'll actually make it all the way there. I don't know exactly when it was spotted, but I'd say it has a good chance of at least getting to the point where it can be here. However, there's already 3 Hydras waiting for it, and I don't think it's going to make a huge difference as far as... that goes, but actually, it gets zoned away, and where'd the Lekizalisk go for it? Okay, he's been unloaded onto a Nidus, I guess. That's what I mean. That's wild. That's very strange. So anyway, the Lekizalisk is able to burrow over there as a result, but not going to be too effective overall. Meanwhile, this Panoptus here was able to avenge the death of the Ovoleth. So 3Crow's investment is completely moot, and there was a Spraith here to defend against the Panoptus as well, because he thought it was going up against Gorgs. So realistically speaking, Mesk should just kill this Hydra and then walk away, but he took a lot of unnecessary hull damage there, which is going to severely negate his ability to use that Panoptus for further harassment down the line. He also shows his hand, indeed, that it is a Stargate. So right now, Mesk has 1 military unit out and another Panoptus halfway done. There's some Gorgs here. Zerg here, and Terran here, Benno here. Now, Benno and Shambler are both typers. Meanwhile, this anchor is just going to be forcibly killed. Benno is going to move in a vulture here just to scout out his opponents. So yeah, by the way, I didn't really comment on this, but this Nidus sees and connects to the one in the back here. So you can drop stuff there to attack the base. But I think it's also here to, like, allow you to support this area with buildings or something. I'm not sure. I don't really know what's up with that. The Droleth is not able to burrow. Gets killed by Panoptuses. Another Kagrant going down. Now, double Panoptus versus, the Hydras here. It's not going to work out too well for him. But Considering there's already a Lakizalisk that has been managed to make its way over here. It looks like it was dropped on the Nidus down there. The Avaleth will go ahead and reveal that. Looks like it was only good for killing one worker. It did shut down mining time for a while, but I don't think that 3crow's been getting his investment's worth back in terms of efficacy. The Panoptises are in a prime position to potentially punish Shambler. That's a lot of P's right there, for the Hydra move out. So I think, a couple of these workers will be taken out, but in fact, it doesn't look like Mesk had the fortitude for it. This game was played a while ago. I haven't seen Mesk be playing games in a hot minute, so I wouldn't be surprised here. We even see that the classic move where the B-Fire thruster palette, like the remapping palette for certain graphics and stuff, is different on the Ice Tile set. I think we standardized that a while ago, but it's still a little bit wacky, particularly over these tiles. You can tell over the Nexus and stuff. It's a little bit more aliased than it needs to be. By the way, Mesk is available as a custom advisor, if you can believe that. I have to program in some way to make it so that he's not really goofy, but that's just because his lines can all play distinctly since there's more than one line. Now, there is no option here for Mesk to defend this easily. There's a couple of Cyclops here, but they're going to get melted pretty quickly. And the Hydras are also here, but the Gorgs are stacking up, and Shambler did not micro himself too well. That being said, elsewhere on the map there are 3 Panoptises, and one of them did die over here as well. Unfortunately, Mesk was not able to do anything with that. I think he definitely could have charged in over here and attacked the anchor. Or maybe killed some Masons or something to sort of allow there to be some kind of worker trade. But as it currently stands, it doesn't look like he lost too many workers. Maybe he lost 1 over here. I see a corpse for it, just disappeared. Yeah, I think it was about it. There's a couple more Cyclops that are going to charge forward heroically. I guess technically the land effect can help with this, which is pretty funny. And now there's Gorg Panoptis here, but 3crow is actually recalling the Gorgs, even though this is something that can be held just by itself. So now 3crow is confusedly wandering around as he takes an expansion. We see Shambler taking an expansion over here, and there's a base forward here for Benno. Very brave for Benno to do this. I mean, you just look at this base, and it's like there's so much going on over here that can be droppable. It's pretty wild. I'm not sure what Shambler was saying my fault for, but... Gorg micro. I didn't even see that, so I guess there was something elsewhere. Wait, he has his own... He doesn't have... Oh, he's just talking about the fight that already happened a while ago. Okay, now it makes sense. The couple extra Cyclops could have theoretically charged in and done some damage, but it doesn't seem like that's something that Benno was too interested in. He's adding a quarry to that ministry, and it is indeed a ministry and not a treasury, so that will definitely help. He'll now go up to 4 worker queues and get absolutely... smashing numbers of workers. There's like oceans of resources in inaccessible locations that you can use flying workers for, but obviously that's not something that's happening right this second. Now we did trade 1 Panoptis for a Watchdog and a Mason, which is not the most cost-efficient trade, but here come the Gorgacores to help out, and now we're going to get into a situation where the air army is ganging up on poor Benno. What can he possibly do to stabilize here? He has a 3rd Fulcrum coming. He doesn't have anything out of his star pad, and... well, he's in an awkward position because now, obviously, the ground-based army from Shambler is going to have to rotate over to try to save this ministry, which admittedly is doing okay at staying alive. The Panoptises have now pulled away, but as long as the Gorgs are on, they're not going to be able to repair that, so off that goes, because obviously the Masons would just die in that situation. Now, it looks like all the Gorgs should get cleaned up here if, if 3crow's not careful. However, crucially, it doesn't look like another Panoptis died. So 5 of the 8 Gorgs will remain alive, and now this ministry has to be rebuilt. Will it be rebuilt on site is an interesting question. And that's for Benno to answer to us. He has a lot of money, so it feels like he definitely could do something like that. Meanwhile, a single Wraith from Benno has absolutely massacred multiple Drillets and is now tickling the Hatterosk. Spraiths are on the way, so 3crow will not be endangered for too much longer. And his Gorgs will slowly heal up as additional ones are created. Chronologically, this is still when we had already done all of the Gorg nerfs and the Zorkia's Shroud, time cost nerf, and all this other stuff, in case people are wondering. Now, the Gorgs were about to show, and I'm not really sure what 3crow's idea is here. You know, the concept in general is if you're curious about something, like, one of the things that I would just mention is You don't want to show your army if you don't have to, because that tells the enemy where your army is relative to everything else. And expanding vertically in this map definitely is a little bit different than expanding horizontally, because you have to defend further away from the enemy's base. Now here comes a little bit of micro coming out of the Shambler as he tries to hose down all of these Gorgs, but they are clumping up towards the ramp, and the units from Shambler are not being microed, even though he has them selected, it looks like. So this army is going to go ahead and get cleaned up, but 3-Crow did lose, what, 5 Gorgs for that, it looks like? That's not nothing, and at least 1 or 2 Panoptises also went down. Not really achieving a critical mass of air units overall. There are a whole host of Goliaths and Blackjacks over here for Monsieur... Wait, what's happening? Oh my god! He was confused by his own Nidus! Maybe he'll understand what I was talking about then. Bunch of Panoptises, well, a bunch. There's a duo of Panoptises over there. Doesn't look like I see any corpses or anything, so the space has not yet been discovered. And then when it is, it's forest sprays, so you're not really going to be able to do too much there. So now here come a horde of Legionnaires. We saw the Cenotaphs going up earlier, but you can see here the Blackjacks and the Hydras and the Goliaths are all here, making sure that nothing can happen there. I just got like because of seeing that formation, I was just thinking it would be really cool if we had like a sort of factional Goliath replacement or something that was this mech, that walker that just sort of like the Dreadnought in Dawn of War 2, where you can do that like sweeping arc motion or something. I thought that would be cool. Now, this fight is not super good for 3-Crow because there's just so many mech units here, and they are kind of in a line, similar to what was being said earlier by Shambler. So more units are pouring on through from the, 4 Fulcrums he's got back at home now. 2 will be able to continuously produce Blackjacks, and the other 2 seem to be tasked on Goliaths, although I think they're all on standard units right now, yeah. So nothing too crazy. Mesk is going to go ahead and start saturating the space in the bottom right at some point. He's currently just sort of making additional units. He does have access to Uptectons with the Ancestral Archives up, which, if those of you who don't know, that is a very high-tier structure. It's kind of surprising to see it so early, but it makes perfect sense versus the composition. It's long-range artillery with splash damage, so you can expect it to deal a fair amount of damage to things like the Hydras and the Goliaths, but it's very weak against air units, so we might even see a bit of a tech transition as a result of seeing this now. But you can see its range over here. Some of that is due to cliff advantage, where it gives +2 cliff advantage in general. And yeah, you can see a couple of snipes happening over here. So it looks like that's going to be the extent of the initial kerfluffles over there. And yes, indeed, Niduses are continuing to confuse people. Honestly, I'd be pretty tempted just to blow these up, but you actually can't because they're done through a trigger. They are set to invulnerable, which is kind of dumb, in my opinion. But also, this might be an old version of the map, so I wouldn't be surprised if you try to boot this up to be like, wow, this map is as crazy as it seems, and it's actually a little bit more sane or changed or whatever. Shambler subscribes to the same idea of map making in terms of progress and practice as Ben Taberski does, where they both basically just spam out a bunch of maps and see what happens, see what sticks. Now, we are finally getting an atlas coming out of Benno. Not Ben Taberski, but just Benno. Ben Eby. I thought there was an idle worker there, but I was mistaken. If you need idle workers, well, there's 2 of them down here. Meet and go. Meet and greet. Now, there are 22 Gorgacores. Boys, there is pretty much no splash damage, and that is certainly going to be a little bit disastrous. Now, when you see this many, that's going to be pretty significant, right? Now, both of the players did spot over here and see just an absolutely monstrous number of Gorgs. None of them died. There are still Legionnaires out. There are 2 Uptectons out. So this can be played slow, or it can be played... I was destroyed. Yeah, that is true. This could be played slow, or it could be played a little bit more like, you know, fast, depending on what 3-Crow and Mesk want to do. It looks like the Gorgs are going to engage a little bit separately from the ground army from Mesk, but the Hydras weren't attacking during this time, so we still have all of the Gorgs. None of them have fallen just yet, and now the Hydras are sicking on top of what the Legionnaires are being engaged with, we can say. So they've been taken care of now, but yeah, 22 Gorgs. Good luck, my man. That's pretty much going to instantaneously wipe everything. What actually is here back at home? We've got an anchor with 2 Cyclops in it. I don't think that's going to last too long versus this many Gorgs. And meanwhile, we do have Uptectons here, launching attacks everywhere. Just seeing what's up. We have a Panoptis on A move. More Legionnaires moving around. So yeah, there is a base down here, but it's going to get tickled, and it doesn't have any economy on it anyway. And now Benno is starting to deplete his main resources. So that is going to be pretty significant for him. Beyond that, we do have the tier 2 up for Shambler, and he is going to go ahead and make use of that. We have 2 Palladiums added on to the now 6 Fulcrums. And this Ministry is occupying a lot of time, but during this time we do not see Madrigals. And so as a result, it's going to be a very awkward time for Benno if this Gorg army just charges directly inward, and of course it will. So the Cyclops get like 2 or 4 hits off or something like that. That's not going to be enough, he says, instead of ordering stuff out of his Fulcrum. And yes, that is the end of our first 2 versus 2. I thought it was going to be a little bit different, to be honest with you guys. I thought maybe Shambler would do something, but instead, he did nothing. And Benno died on his watch. How can we ever forgive him? Well, maybe by casting the second game of this set and seeing what else is here. I hope it's silly. That's what we call a sponsored SIP transition. Benno now in the top left alongside the Shambler yet again, who is now playing as Protoss. Mesk has rolled Zerg, and 3Crow has either chosen or rolled Terran. Wouldn't be surprised if the right side team here was... but I wouldn't be surprised if they were rolling Terran in general. Or rolling random, sorry, in general. Rocking it up random style. So we'll see if this one is going to be a longer effort or not. I will say that generally speaking, I have some idea of what's possible or what is significant based on the size of the replay file. And that's why I said I thought that the last match would be a little bit more significant, because it was pretty heavy in terms of size. It was like something like 250 kilobytes or maybe even bigger than that. And that usually means it's like a fairly long game. But maybe because the number of players are higher, there's like more things written to the turn counter and the table and stuff. So it might just be that the files get bigger with the more players you have, which I would believe. It would make sense. There's some unfortunate repetition over here for the tiles, but beyond that, I mean, what more can you really ask for? That's a bug! What is that? How'd you... Maybe this is a bug with the masking. Is that like that for all of them? Do we have another example? This is very important. That's a bug. That's the wrong tile. No, that's not like that. What the fuck? What did he do? How he do that? Maybe that is bugged on the tile, though. I'm not sure. Maybe this one's wrong. What the fuck? I also can hardly hear you, Mesk. You gotta set his advisor to Mesk, dude, in config. So this time around, Mesk is gonna go for a Quasrock pool. I still have not renamed that to Quazuth, but I will. I will do that. Actually, totally unrelated to this, but if you're watching this cast over, ideally around the time that this comes out, maybe the next day or something, I will have shipped a request from Ben Taberski himself, since he came up earlier when I was talking about map making and stuff. He requested a game mode that I'm calling Omnipresence, and it allows you to, it starts you off with a custom town center, and that town center trains all workers, and you start off with 2 of each race's worker. AI do not get supported by this because obviously the AI script doesn't work for that. But if you want to try that out, or it's like kind of like a more casual or interesting non-standard game mode, then that might be something significant. Now, it is a good thing that Shambler, or sorry, it's a good thing that it's Zeths here, because there's already a Drakiden instantaneously surrounded by a whole host of Masons, so hopefully those can get back to mining ASAP. And the fast Drakiden move was not quite successful here for the Shambler. Now, it's kind of interesting because in this particular move, well, they could just go after the scribe there, but they're not going to. I like that the Droleth is with the army too. The army of 2 things. This is one of the reasons why you got to be really thoughtful about where you're placing your pylons and your crucibles. If it's so close to the Protoss main, the fact that they don't need to wait for a pylon completely upsets all of the significance of early game build order timings and such. And not to say nothing of the fact that obviously the Drakidens train faster because the gateways operate faster once they're warped in around a crucible. So I don't know if this is going to be enough to actually do fatal damage or anything, but it's worth noting that because at this stage you are talking about, a pretty significant loss of, or surprising amount of time or whatever, a pretty significant loss of action there. The Droleth and the 2 Zeths were occupying the anchor and making sure that Shambler ends up losing out access to it. So now we have another case where Oh, absolutely slapped. Not quite enough. Well, he can just stand on them, but I don't know that he knows that. Now, there are additional Draconans up here. So at this stage, you probably want to grab some Vorvs to go along with the Cyprians here, and you kind of want to like frontline for them, but it doesn't look like we're going to get too many of those, and instead we are going to get Mesk getting absolutely tickled. Only one of the Zeths was cleared from before, so there's still 3. Exactly 3. And I thought there were going to be a lot more Zethicores, but instead it was all Drilleths, and there's no defenses over here. So now we're going to have to see these very slow, fat, victorious Cyprians move up over here as workers are mercilessly slaughtered. We still have we have 2 bruised ones, one of them exceptionally low. And unfortunately for Mesk, he's not even going to be able to get one of them right now because... And there's still no reaction from 3Crow, who has just loaded up a Trojan and is only now realizing, oh shit, my ally is under attack. I think maybe these replays were sent over just because we Shambler wanted feedback on his map and less so about the quality of the games. Because I don't really see how the right side team is going to come back from this. If the Zerg had been able to hold and then 3Crow sent this Trojan drop across, maybe punished Benno for sending out all of his early Cyclops, that would be one thing. But at this stage, I'm not so sure. I mean, he's got more Cyprians coming, he's got a 3rd Stockade coming, but realistically speaking, he's got double Trojan with nothing else in it, so... not so sure about that one. I think I heard yeah, there's double Goliath over here as well. This is going to be a really hard, thing to deal with. And I don't know if Mesk knows which Nidus works for the back base, because he could theoretically expand there since all of his workers are over here. When your worker returns to an allied town center, whoever owns the worker, is who gets the resources. FYI. So, they can conceivably hold out, but... I don't know, I think you can just walk right over here with all of the Draconans. So I think a lot of this was, I guess it's an important thing to think about, is like, how am I going to construct my maps? What am I going to do as far as building out, certain additions, certain changes? Really clearly here, the fact that the Protoss was allowed to get their first Draconan across the map before, the Terrans had 2 infantry units, as the Zethicores were hatching from a Quasrock first build. Yeah, I think that kind of tells you everything. So this Crucible here needs to be moved away from the Protoss main, or from the start locations in general, so that Protoss can't do really, really ridiculously powerful strategies like that. And yeah, I mean, this castover is, as such, a niche within a niche, since it's for an audience of people who might be interested in making maps. But, at least 3Crow has a Trojan. JK. He could have unloaded that and then loaded it in the other one. So there you go. That's pretty much it. At least Benno knows that. Oh, never mind. He added his second G afterwards. I like that because 3Crow left at that point. You have to imagine. All right. I agree. There you go. Okay. So that is that. I don't know why these replays were sent to me. Clearly, I think Shambler was just like, dude, I played on my map and I did this really broken thing. Yeah, well, actually, real quick, I will open up the map on the modern version of the game, so to speak, and see what comes of it. Give me 1 second to do that. Well, the latest version of the map does have the same placement there. So I guess it's pretty safe to say that's a little OP. I probably don't do that. But that's going to do it for this castover. We did not break the streak after all. And at the very least, there's something there to be celebrated for. We also got to see some neat team strategies and silliness and a really fucking wacky map. Join us next time for some more 1v1s between the Shambler and Mystery Meat, some of which are going to be quite fast and rushy in origin.